Now you're telling them, well, because you lived in this place for free, we're going to pay you directly. We're going to pay you for having to live in this place for free for the last 6 months. There is no logic to that at all. All right, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's going over the fact that right now there is a proposal in Congress to allow landlords to apply for rental assistance without the tenants, okay? So the way that the rental assistance program works right now, the tenant has to make a declaration basically saying that they faced hardship during the coronavirus pandemic and they lost income or whatever. And plus the tenant has to meet all these stipulations, like, they can only make up to 80% of the median area income and whatever other local stipulations that they put on it. So a lot of landlords are frustrated because tenants are refusing to apply, they're not cooperating, and they're making it super difficult for them to obtain these funds. So what Congress is trying to do is allow landlords themselves to apply for rental assistance and get that compensation so that they can let these tenants continue to stay, and be covered by it. Okay, so that would actually keep people housed in their housing. It would speed up the programs and make things better overall with these rental assistance programs. It's a common sense thing they're trying to do that they should have had in place from the very beginning. But of course, they don't understand how things really work in the real world. And they didn't see that landlords were going to face these kind of issues until after they implemented these programs. But before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below, and let me know what you think of this sort of change to the rental assistance program. If you think it's a good thing, or if you think it's a bad thing that landlords are going to be able to apply without tenants. Okay? So, this article, it comes from pewtrusts.org, and it says, Congress might allow frustrated landlords to seek rent relief. A measure moving through the U.S. House of Representatives would allow landlords to apply without tenant approval for federal aid to cover back rent they are owed. The bill also would use best practices from states and programs that have successfully curbed evictions to set a national standard for how applications for the federal aid are processed. That would force states to follow U.S. Treasury Department recommendations that some programs have ignored, such as the use of alternative documents to prove income and eligibility. So yeah, a lot of states were denying tenants because they weren't allowing certain documents to prove eligibility for the program. So a lot of landlords were losing out on this money, and that's completely ridiculous. Okay, come on. We got to get the money to the landlords. You had landlords not able to accept or not evict for a year and a half. And guess what? They need to get compensated. You have all this money sitting out there. You haven't distributed much of that rental assistance yet. Get it to the people who need it, okay? The main purpose of the bill, supporters say, is to speed up payments from the Federal Emergency Rental Assistance Program, which has handed out only 11% of the available funds in 6 months of operation. There is no question that the funds are not reaching landlords and renters quickly or widely enough, said Representative Maxine Waters, a California Democrat, in a news release. Waters sponsored the bill and is chair of the House Financial Services Committee, which approved the measure earlier this week. Normally I don't like a lot of the things that Maxine Waters says, but keeping in mind that the rental assistance it needs to get to the landlords, okay? So I don't mind the fact that they are working on trying to streamline the process of that. What I don't want to see, though, is that this leads to any sort of further eviction moratoriums, okay? If they want to keep these rental assistance programs in place, but, still allow landlords to evict, still allow landlords to go through the regular court process, then I have no problem with that. But they need to really make sure that they can get this money to the landlords. Don't worry about those tenants. The tenants never even need to see the money. The tenants just need to know whether they have a place to stay or not. Representative Warren Davidson, a Republican of Ohio. I think I skipped one. Okay. She said the U.S. Supreme Court's decision last month to allow the eviction moratorium put in place by the Federal Center for Disease Control and Prevention to expire has increased the urgency of her measure. Representative Warren Davidson, a Republican of Ohio, said the passage of the bill would be government overreach and detrimental to the free market. I disagree, okay? They already... See, the problem is the eviction moratorium already happened. So all they're doing now is compensating what happened in the past. I don't see that as being government overreach. The eviction moratorium itself was government overreach. I don't think paying the landlords back for screwing them over is government overreach. So I disagree with this. Maybe there's more to this story, though. Maybe there's a reason that he's saying that. Let's continue. To restore economic and social harmony, the state must return to its proper role, which means that people must accept responsibility for their own actions and respect the liberty and property of others, Davidson said during the committee hearing. There are no GOP sponsors of the bill, which passed the committee 28-22 on partisan lines. The legislation has not been introduced in the Senate. In the second half of August, 3.6 million renters said they would likely be evicted in the next 2 months, according to the U.S. Census Bureau. More than 6 million households owed some $16.8 billion in rent debt, according to census survey data from early August analyzed by the National Equity Atlas, a data and policy tool maintained by the University of Southern California Equity Research Institute and the research firm PolicyLink. So I understand that we don't want any more rental assistance going forward into the future. We don't want more tenants who are basically staying in these properties any longer. We want this thing to come to an end. However, I do believe that the landlords need to be compensated for what has already happened. And 18 months of eviction moratoriums, if these landlords have not been paid yet, that's what that rental assistance is for. And that's why they need to remove these restrictions from that money to make sure the landlords actually get paid for what happened in the past. Now, I don't know the exact wording of this bill, but I don't know why they are opposed to it. I would think that making sure landlords get paid what they're owed would be on the top of the lists, for the GOP. But maybe there's some poison pill in there that says something like, well, you can never evict these tenants if you accept rental assistance. Then maybe I would agree with that as well. Okay. Okay, so let's see here. I'm going to skip a few paragraphs because, they're just going over more ridiculous statistics. Just $7.75 billion of the first ERA program has been spent or obligated, according to U.S. Treasury Department data analyzed by the National Low-Income Housing Coalition, a tenant advocacy group based in Washington, D.C. Some programs in Connecticut, the District of Columbia, Illinois, New Jersey, Texas, and Virginia have spent more than half of their first ERA funds. Earlier this month, Diane Yentel, president of the coalition, told members of the Financial Services Committee that there are proven ways for programs to expedite relief, including hiring more staff, doing robust outreach, simplifying applications, allowing the use of alternative documents for applications, and directly providing assistance to tenants. And that's all BS, okay? All of it is BS. This sounds like a typical bureaucrat who added a whole bunch of crap. Okay, so let's go over that real quick. Diane Yentel says, here's a way that we can get the rent relief. We can hire more staff. Yeah, that's what we need. We need more bureaucrats to make the process go. Yeah, I mean, if they were actually distributing the funds, then, hiring more people is not going to do anything other than just add more layers to this process and make it slower. Doing outreach. Hey, these programs, they exist, doing outreach. Here is what they need to do, okay? They need to get the money to the landlords, okay? And one of the most idiotic things that she says here is providing assistance directly to tenants. Okay, Why does the tenant, I keep asking this, but no one has explained this anywhere. Why does the tenant need these rental assistance funds directly? Please explain to me that, okay? If you're a politician or you're a tenant advocate, please tell me right now, if put in the comments down below, why does the tenant need the rental assistance funds directly? Okay, so let me go over a quick scenario for you, just in case you don't understand. Tenant loses their job. Let's say they lose their job due to the pandemic. Okay, they are protected from eviction by the eviction moratorium. They cannot be evicted. They stay in their apartment rent-free for 6 months. So they didn't have to pay, let's say they had $1,000 a month rent. They didn't have to pay rent for 6 months. They got to live for free. Not only that, but they got unemployment benefits from the state. They got extended unemployment benefits from the federal government. They got 3 stimulus checks, and they get the child tax credit now from the government as well. Okay, so they got all of that the entire time they were unemployed. Now you're telling them, well, because you lived in this place for free, we're going to pay you directly. We're going to pay you for having to live in this place for free for the last 6 months. There is no logic to that at all. Okay? You people need to figure out what you are doing and use your brains, because that doesn't make any sense.